Hey, this is Jeff Justice with Jeff Justice Seminars for Court Reporters, and we are delighted that you picked us to get some of your online CEUs with. So, you notice now you probably got a PDF. Go ahead and print that out so you can follow along with it with the course here. And at the end, you can scan it or send it back to us, or just put the answers into an email and send it to us, and we will get you your answers back and your score back right away and take care of getting you your CEUs. So get ready to laugh and learn with Jeff Justice Seminars for Court Reporters.
Go ahead and get started. The next section we're going to talk about, if you go to the index, are just briefly some communication strategies. And again, I'm just going to talk at you for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to get in things where I hope you'll talk at me. Talk to me. Talk with me. These I usually go over. I won't apologize for the repeating, but because it doesn't hurt to hear them on a regular basis. I've just finished proofing a book for a fellow speaker on speaking techniques. And you know, it's your judgment to make, but most people say I ain't too bad as a speaker. The 8 hours, y'all gonna get a little sick of me because that's a long time to look at the same speaker. So I should go change clothes at lunch, shouldn't I? And maybe you'll think I'm someone different. And I hate to say this, and Jeff says that I need to leave out extraneous things for the video. It ain't gonna happen. But I'm 63. I'm the oldest of 5. Our brother pretty much has run screaming from the family because we're a matriarchy, female dominated. We all love Duke. I'm the only one that went to Duke. And Duke has a decent basketball team for men and women. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but hey, do you need us? Do you need us? You've come to visit.
I'm just saying hey.
Hey, it's Jeffrey. And we, now see, like I said about talking about court reporters, or court reporters talking and attorneys being outside, just as I fuss about Jeff, he's standing right outside the room. Maybe it's me. Maybe my paranoia is not really paranoia. Maybe they are out to get me. I don't know. And my baby sister is 57. It's hard to say baby at 57, but she's my little Betsy's my baby sister. We all love Duke. And during Christmas, when the students go home, usually the team, Coach K, has them come back in for a game against a local or a North Carolina school that isn't that great, but really wants to play Duke just because it's good experience. And this sounds like I'm bragging, but I've not ever played basketball. I did offer one time when I thought our point guard was doing bad to go back because I never used my eligibility, but they still haven't arrested me for stalking Coach K. That's good. Never mind. I really were nuts about it. And the cheerleaders aren't there. And the band, a lot of townspeople that used to go to Duke or just have always played with the Duke band come in. In fact, we've got a trumpet player who's 95. They did 60 Minutes did a special on him a few years back, who still plays with the band at Christmas. So it's a game where there are not a lot of students, mainly townsfolks, the team, the coach, Coach K, and a band that is made up primarily of townspeople. We sit with the band wearing blue wigs, and we try to dance instead of the cheerleaders. My husband, who weighs what he weighed as a running back in high school, calls us the Butt Sisters. I know we haven't killed him yet. He's a lovely man otherwise. We all got mama's hips and you know what. But there we are, 4 old, chubby women with Duke hair on dancing. Fortunately, those games are not televised. Otherwise, I think I'd lose my job. Neither one of my judges even understands sports, and Judge Jennings has threatened to hold me in contempt if he walks into the courtroom during basketball season and anybody's mentioning it. So, and of course during basketball season, everyone asks me, is he going to go pro? How's he doing both? So It's just terrible. But, so I could, if I brought my blue wig, I could get that on at lunch, and you might think I'm a different speaker. See, that was what the story was about. But anyway, in terms of communication, I'm just going to talk. If you want to make notes, there's plenty of white space for you to do that. These are just techniques that, actually, one of my early jobs was after I graduated, I worked at Duke as a trainer. And I taught patient relations. I did this for 12 years. Taught patient relations, taught EEOC, told supervisors how not to discriminate, which was a lot of fun because you know how lawyers can act kind of like they're real important? Triple that and you've got your doctors. You tell a world-renowned cardiologist that he can't ask certain questions during a job interview, and he's not a happy camper. But so that was kind of a trial by fire as a much younger person teaching those sorts of things. I taught labor relations, labor unions, and that just can be a lot of fun. In fact, they used to call me, Sue, there's a fight broke out in the laundry room. Can you go down and talk to them? So communication strategies, although you're going, well, how does this court reporter, English major from Duke know anything about that? I got a little experience in it. And over the years as a reporter, and thanks partly to my mentor, Connie, I give all the credit to, I've come up with some decent ones. But my first strategy actually comes from eBay and my husband, which is odd because Lee has no communication strategies. Give me the 9mm and let me go get them, is my husband's theory of life. At age 73, he's still mean as a snake and has a lot of passion and spirit, and that is a blessing, actually, for both of us. But he is retired, a retired chef. Okay, I got Mama's baking skills, and Lee is a retired chef. The chances of me ever getting skinny in my old age are slim and none. Let me just tell y'all that now. I will go home and he'll have salmon in a Beurre Blanc sauce for me. Yum. We're the only people who have caviar in our home that I know. Yum. If you ever need a good recipe, we have every cookbook in the world. Yum. It's real sad, but there you have it. But Lee, without communication strategies in his retired years, has started selling in-scale trains on eBay. He was a mechanic in the Air Force, and chefs have great hand skills. And he sells lots, that's the wrong way to say it, she is our air person.
It's up, as hot as it goes.
I haven't been cold since 1989, but if I need it down, well, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I'll let you know if it gets real bad. But he has always been real good at fixing things, so he buys a bunch of stuff on eBay. You know, they sell a box of things. You know, my son left this somewhere, which may or may not be true. And he'll get these little trains, and he'll go inside and fix them and clean them up. And then some of them will be worth something, and he'll sell a group that he bought one by one on eBay. And it's a great supplement. He's done real great for us, and I'm real proud of him. He also buys kits of houses and fixes them and gets catalogs like from Sears or Belk's and cuts pictures out of curtains and puts them in the little houses and buys these little people and glues them on in little mailboxes. And he really does it keeps him off the street, and he hasn't been chasing any 18-year-old blondes or wanting a Corvette, so life is good in my house. I'm real glad he's got something he loves to do, and as we age, they say the busier you are and the more you do things that are kind of technical or crosswords it keeps Alzheimer's away, which is wonderful, but so it's great and gives us both something to do that I love what I do, he loves what he does. That's a wonderful way to live. But anyway, you never know who's buying stuff on eBay, right? I mean, it could be a retired college professor. It could be a mommy buying a train for her son, or it could be a 14-year-old boy who's spending his Christmas money getting an N-scale Santa Fe Atlas with 8-wheel drive, so you never know who you're going to get. And we work in a profession, except for the odd pro se person, which we see. I say pro se and I get the same reaction from every court reporting group in the world. Who are they looking for when they call on us? An attorney. They want us to take care of them, don't they? They don't understand anything, do they? Our explanations, even if we take the rules and make them as simple as we can, don't mean a thing to them, do they? No. And how much do they want to pay us? Nothing. Our favorites. Run from the pro se. Well, you can't sometimes. But except for that, even if there are disagreements or arguments with attorneys, we're in general dealing kind of in a higher class level than a lot of folks do. We're not at a convenience store. We're not at 7-Eleven waiting on some drunk that we can't sell a beer to. Someday when you think you've got a rough life, think about that person. And you're wondering as the next person comes in if they're the ones that has the gun and going to try to rob you. Lord have mercy, our lives aren't that bad, are they? But in any event, so if someone disagrees, they're going to call them and go, Sue, you know, I think you left out my objection in that transcript and I want you to put it back in. Sue, where are my exhibits? Blah, blah, blah. Have you filed that yet? Those are the kinds of things we get, but usually they're reasonably pleasant. On eBay, Lee will get comments. I know, in fact, it was from someone in New Jersey, and I think it was a retired guy because his eBay name was Old Train Codger or something that made you think he might be a senior citizen. But he wrote us the nastiest letter going, or this nasty eBay email going, you know, I ordered this and you didn't send me that, and how dare you not send me, I want my money back. And I looked at my records and I had mailed it from Augusta, Georgia, 3 p.m. the day before, and this was 11 a.m. the next morning, and he was in Buffalo. Postal service is not that good. I sent it priority mail, but he didn't get it within 12 hours, or less than 24. Lee's attitude, which is, let me get my gun and get them, would be, write him back a nasty letter. You know you didn't do that. Tell him off. And I'd go, Lee, maybe that's not the best way to handle it. Or we get an email from someone that we had mailed several things to, and we combined shipping, which means that, you know, if they buy more than one item, we charge them less for shipping. Some of you know eBay and those sorts of things and know what that means. And somebody said, you charge me this for shipping. What's up with that? You know, that's what we deal with on eBay. And Lee, of course, wants to, you know, we charged him $9. It cost us $10 to ship it, and they're fussing. So Lee wants to get them. And I've learned in working with this wide variety of folks we deal with on eBay that if I do what Lee says and be confrontational when I respond to them, that I get confrontation back. So what I've learned in Lee's retired hobby that's turned into a career that helps me every day is I've learned to start out every email response with, thank you for writing. It's so simple. Thank you for calling, Mr. Jones. Let me check my records and see if I did leave that objection out. Thanks for letting me know, Mr. Jones, that you don't have your exhibits. Let me check my records and see what might have happened to them. But that simple step away from the issue to try to play nice makes all the difference in the world. It's a calming effect. You know, if you've got a child that is screaming and yelling, or a doggy, for those of us that don't have kids at home but have doggies at home, and they're acting up or wild and excited, and you get wild and excited back, it only increases that. But if you lower your voice, take a step back, or when you're responding with a letter, begin by being nice and complimenting them, thanking them as a compliment. When I say that it's a compliment, how is that compliment spelled? C-O-M-P-L-I-M-E-N-T. When you're given a complimentary bottle of wine with dinner, how is that spelled? Maybe. I know this is no longer true, but in the old days, you're supposed to have red wine unless you're vegetarian. Red wine with beef and pork, and white with chicken and fish. Anybody remember the old days when that was the way you did it? So if you've had the wine steward pick out a wine for you, it might be C-O-M-P-L-E-M-E-R-T if they've chosen a bottle of wine that will go along with. But normally, if you mean complimentary being free, which is the typical meaning, yes, that is an I. And that was on the national test I saw about 8 years ago, so that's a good one to remember. You never know where these things will help you. But that brings down the tone, that compliment, that thank you, and opens people's minds a little bit. And also, if it's an in-person or telephone conversation, gives you a second to calm down. Because I teach better than I act about this area. I can get righteously indignant faster than anybody I know. How dare you say my grammar's wrong? I'm the queen of grammar. That's what I'm thinking in my head. How dare you say that the transcript is wrong? And I do need a minute to mentally bring it down a notch, or emotionally bring it down a notch. Thanks for letting me know. Do not apologize for something you did wrong. I do not normally guys never do. And women, no, they don't. It's a business relationship. You know it's a business relationship. You treat it like that. It's real simple. Women will go, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. If you didn't do anything wrong, you want to calm it down, but you don't want to put yourself in a weak position. And attorneys, God love them, will take advantage of that. That's part of their training, is to look for weakness. You see it when they examine somebody who starts not necessarily lying, but you can tell that their story is not going well, and suddenly the attorney is on it, and they're off to the races, and the poor person's brought to tears about, I did it, I confess. Maybe not that far, but you know, a good attorney can do that. But don't apologize if you didn't do anything wrong. Here's where I find the farther south I go, notice the proper use of farther, the distance instead of further. Uh-oh, this grammar is creeping in more and more, isn't it? I can't help myself. I want you to speak and write and know as many words as you can and be wonderful. Because one of the communication techniques people will use against you, and this is something that makes me really angry, is big words. As a way to beat people over the head. Do you know what I mean? Where people will deliberately use words they know the other person doesn't understand. And I hate that. I am well educated, but I come from folks that by and large weren't. I was the second person in my mama's side of the family to go to college. And it was a big deal, and I'm really glad that I was able to. I had to have a full scholarship because we didn't have money, and I got one, but I worked my you-know-what off in high school to get there. Maybe that's why I tested so well. I was really determined, but I hate that. But I want you to be in a position where the words don't scare you. read. I know as a court reporter it's hard to read. And one of the sad things for me, although I love reporting, and it's a wonderful, I agree, it's a wonderful profession, is that because we prove so much, it's hard to read for pleasure. Do y'all find that to be true? No, you can separate it. That's wonderful. I find that difficult. And I hate it because I used to love poetry and used to love to read funky little novels and now I have to, it's hard for me to turn the proofer off because I do so much proofing. But read as much as you can. That's a good way to learn big words. If you are coaching or working with someone that has trouble with written tests or has trouble because they don't know a lot of words, encourage them to read newspapers. Grammar is oftentimes more cutting edge than I recommend for court reporters, and not every newspaper is always edited or proofed properly, but in terms of words that are, not just Dick went down the hill, Jane followed down the hill. You get some 50-cent words in there. And use the dictionary. Either a good online dictionary. I still drag out my old Merriam-Webster, collegiate edition, which I love. But use the dictionary. Learn words. And that way you can't be intimidated by the attorney who tries to lord something over you by using words against you. It is your best defense. You don't have to use them back, but I hate people that do that. I find that to be really offensive. That is just a tacky thing to do to other human beings, is to try to use words to beat them up. I'm smarter than you are, na. Because I came from people that were smart, just didn't have the money, or because they had to work, didn't have the education, so I resent folks that do it. But I find that the farther south I go, the more women are likely to apologize. New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey gals don't do that much apologizing, though every now and then I'll run into someone whose first reaction is when someone calls to complain or make a comment or get you to change something or wants to know why your bill is so high. Oh, I'm so sorry. And Lord have mercy, I whip, and no, I've just threatened you. It's not a terroristic threat though, so it's only a misdemeanor. I'm all right. I won't do that, but please don't apologize for what you charge or your firm charges. Not a one of us makes the money we ought to make for the work and aggravation and time we have to spend as court reporters. Do not apologize. We don't make enough money. And I know reporters that do apologize. I'm so sorry, I charge you nothing, but my firm makes me... No, you don't want to be doing that. I wouldn't confront them and go, well, you charge $500 an hour, Jack. That's not going to help the situation, though we can think it, can't we?
Yeah.
They charge what they think they're worth, and something like, our firm pretty much charges the going rate for court reporters. Leave it alone. I'd respond to it, but this is considered about average for this part of the country. And then shut up. Here's another area guys don't have a bit of a problem saying exactly what they mean, and then they don't talk. Not all the women here, and I did march in the 60s for women's rights, so please don't think I'm not a feminist, but I just know women, and we are different from men. I'd like to say we're all the same, but I've seen too many studies on schools where you have all girl classes and all boy classes, and all of them do better. I realize some of that as they get older is the sexual tension and the acting out for the opposite sex, but we are different, and women oftentimes tend to be more emotional about things. And it gets easy to overstate. Say what you mean and shut up. maybe I'm only speaking about me, but the teacher in me, and I hate to say it, but at 63, I'd still like people to like me. It's a terrible trait. Actually, it makes me very nice and friendly and agreeable. And I'm not going to change. I like who I am. I'm very comfortable in my skin, which is the blessing of getting older. You know, my aching left hip is one of the negatives, but I'll take that for feeling more comfortable about who I am. But I tend to over-explain. I go way far more than I do it as a teacher, and I hate that about, you know, that's bad for y'all. I try to, when I see your eyes close, your eyes roll, or you thud on the table, I try to move it along, but the reality is the attorney that has called you wanting a transcript that you can't get to them is not interested in the fact that you were up all night with a sick baby. You know, tell them enough to know that you weren't out on a 3-day drunk course, but simply saying, I would love to get you that transcript tomorrow, but we're leaving in an hour for a 3-year planned vacation in the Bahamas. And then you shut up. I understand what you're saying about the cost, but our firm charges what is the going rate for this area. And then you shut up. You're done. It's their turn. Okay? So watch that if that's an issue for you. Don't apologize. Don't over-explain. And shut up. And this is the saddest part. I always feel sad talking about the audio and the video replacing us. Oh, by the way, Darlene is from Pennsylvania. And when I was talking about attorneys before the break, being our best ally, because I'm about to talk about them being, you know, our evil enemy, but talking about them being our best ally in the fight against the video or audio machine replacing us for depositions or court work. I'm thinking Pennsylvania is the state I was thinking of because they tried that about 5-6 years ago, and they have gone back because attorneys complained and were appealing. So the pendulum may swing that way, but you know, and if it does and you lose a job, I hate that for you and I hope you can wait it out, but it'll come back eventually. And we ain't the big expense in any county, in any municipality or any state or federally in the country. Court reporters are not causing problems financially for this country. It ain't us. But again, we're an easy group to pinpoint, an easy, you know, to attack. So, but the reality is that they will be our best allies with something like that. But they are not our friends. Jeff used to say when he would introduce me that I have 2 pet judges that I feed and water, and he gives very charming introductions, and that's a good way to say it. But no, I don't. I have 2 judges, one of whom, the chief judge, I serve at his pleasure. If he gets tired of me, I don't care how many suits I file. For me, it would be age discrimination at my age. Well, it would be. You know what I love to, do y'all know what Publix is, the grocery store? Do y'all have that up here? I love them at Publix. They get all the bones out of the salmon and the produce is real good. And when you turn 60, you get on Wednesdays you get a 5% discount if you're at least 60. And I'm in there shouting, I'm 60, give me my discount. And other women are going, how can you do that? I want my money. I'm proud of being old, I love it. But my judges, I serve at their pleasure. I can file all the discrimination suits I want to, but you serve at the judge's pleasure, at least you do in Georgia. I don't care how often you go to someone's office. You're the only one they call for depositions. They know you. They know your husband's name, your children's names, your dog's name. They know to ask you about the favorite college team you root for. I don't care how loving and kind they seem to you, they are not your friends, they are your clients. And again, if what I said a few minutes ago about being touchy-feely and ooey-gooey with your attorneys and over-apologizing or saying too much, if that rang true for you, then this is an issue for you too. I promise it all goes hand in hand. And I thought they were my friends when I did depositions. And then when I became an official, I found out a big secret. They use us as an excuse. Monday morning, while you're blithely finishing transcripts or taking a day of shopping or in a deposition working as hard as you can, some attorney in some courtroom is taking your name in vain. They may say the court reporter, or they may be saying actually your name. When I got to court, you know what calendar call is? Do you have that up here where they call the cases for the week to see who's ready for trial or who might settle, or if the DA, if it's criminal, is going to dismiss, where they go over the list of cases in front of the judge? I'm there for calendar call. That's not reported. I don't have to write it, to take it down, but I'm physically there to see what's going to be coming up the next week for me. And I have had more than one time an attorney say, in fact, it happens every time we do calendar call, Judge, I'm not ready. The court reporter's not gotten the doctor's deposition done yet. Judge, I'm not ready. I've got 5 transcripts that I have to have for discovery, and the court reporter, although I've ordered them, still hasn't gotten them back. I'm not lying, I promise. Don't they do that? Those of you that are officials? They are not with, okay, they represent the defendant. The defendant's mamas scraped together $5,000 as a retainer to pay them. They're not going to say to the judge, Judge, my new mistress and I have been on a 5-day drunk and I'm not ready for trial. That ain't going to be said. It's going to be us. It's not going to be their secretary, because if their secretary hears about it, she or he, but probably she, may leave. And for many attorneys, it's their secretary is the only reason that they're able to stay in business. It's going to be us. We're not their employees. They use us when they need us, and that's it. But we make an easy excuse. I'm not saying don't be nice to your to your attorneys, and don't go in and assume they're going to talk negatively about you, but they're not your friends. They're your clients. And that distance, although I'm collegial and I love it when they ask me about the Blue Devils, and in Georgia it's the Bulldogs, and they've had a bad year last year, and they'll talk about how about them dogs, D-A-W-G-S. Do you know how much that hurts my heart as a former English teacher? It's like Toys R Us. Okay, who plays with toys, aside from my husband and his strings? Children. Who needs good grammar and punctuation? Children. They got that during backwards R. And I used to teach kids that had emotional problems and learning disabilities. You know, that's the setup for dyslexia. I mean, but I see that Toys R Us, and one day if you hear crazed court reporter attacks corporate office of Toys R Us, you can say, she came to New Jersey and seems so nice. Maybe they put her back on the steroids. But it'll be that backwards R that will do me in. There is no comma when someone uses a second or third after their name. There is with junior or senior, but that comma technically is wrong. And my chief judge is William D. Jennings III, and he puts the comma there. When I write anything and it includes his name, do I put the comma in there? And we just have this agreement to disagree. I've shown him things that say that is not proper, but people do it. And if you do it, it's not the biggest deal in the world. That is not going to make or break a transcript. But to be perfectly correct, that comma doesn't belong there. And one day, and nearly everyone does it, I'm going to take a can of spray paint and change the signs on every attorney's office that would be defacing property. But it's still under the dollar limit, which is $500 in Georgia, so still a misdemeanor. I might get away with it. Y'all think I'm joking, don't you? Maybe not. I don't know. But that Toys R Us bothers me a great deal. Know the rules of your state. I could study all I want to about Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, wherever you practice as a court reporter, and I would never learn all your rules. In Texas, they require 2.5 hours of ethics every year, and the first time that Jeff convinced me I could do an ethics workshop, so I tried it, and at first I thought, well, I'll just learn their rules and teach that. And I went to the website for the Texas board and went in there and got all kinds of information. Interestingly enough, what they call ethics or margins and stuff like that, that ain't ethics, that's procedural stuff. But I realized I don't report in Texas, I'll never learn the rules. So I've given up, not out of laziness, but just from knowing as a reporter in Georgia. I know what they do in Georgia, and I try to say that's what they do in Georgia, so that if anyone here thinks, oh, I need to start doing that, it's a Georgia rule may or may not be your rule. And please learn them. We'll go over some things in a few minutes that will, I bet some of you, many of you have been reporting a long time, probably a long time in the state that we're now in. But I bet when we start talking about rules, even with a group this small, there'll be some disagreements. In Illinois, most of the court reporters we work with are not officials. They're free, we call them freelance, and at least that's what we do in Georgia, that's the distinction. But they're freelance reporters, either with a firm or on their own. And I was told about 5 years ago, I go, there wasn't one official in the room, and I just kind of wondered out loud, wonder why that is. And several people hollered at me, and mad as the devil about it. Officials don't have to get cert, don't have to have CEs. And I said, really? I thought that was odd because in Georgia, everyone does. And obviously here, there almost 40% of you are officials in this room, and you're here, and I bet you're not here just for fun, are you? You want some credits out of this day. So I've never known a state where that happened. And I mentioned it, we were in Chicago 2 weeks ago, and there were 3 officials in the room. And I said, I thought officials didn't have to get, or I was told officials didn't have to get CEs in Illinois. And except for those 3 people, the whole group, and it was over 100 people, and they were mad about it. No, they don't, it's not fair. And I said, well, what you 3 ladies doing here then? They said, normally the state arranges our continuing ed. We just weren't able to go this year. So 90% of the non-official court reporters in Illinois believe officials don't have to get CE credits, when the reality is that the state sets it up for them separately. I don't know if the state pays for it or not, or if counties do. I don't know how that works. And frankly, given the level of anger by that large group, I didn't want to, I wanted to let that go. But my point for them and my point for you is the same. The rule is all court reporters, and I wonder if they're drinking heavily. Somebody go out there and get them. No, I'm kidding. It's distracting, but I'll try to, am I still loud enough? You're okay? Okay.
The rule is that court reporters, I'm reading it back.
The rule is that court reporters have to get CEs. They just do it differently. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, in New York, we're not required to.
When? Okay.
No, we're not required to. And in fact, when I told my boss I was coming here to get my points for my license, his exact words were, "What are you bothering with that shit for?" So,
Thank you for sharing. Is it okay if I don't repeat her comment? Well, thank your boss but But you want to come because you want the information. Or you need national.
National, but we're not required.
But in New York, now see, now I know, so next time we go to New York, I'll know that. But you've got to learn your rules. And you've got to know where to go to get your rules if there's a disagreement about it. That's your job. I mean, and these things are important. You can lose your license. You don't want to lose your license. Know the rules that apply to you as a reporter for the state that you're in. There are some national rules that really apply to everyone, but each state has its own way of handling things. End of introduction of, or no, actually, end of communication. Let's go to record keeping. Turn to page 4 in your handout. Handout is one word or two. When I say in your handout. When I say, will you hand out these papers to your classmates? That's two. And that's a real bugaboo, whether it's one word or two as a verb or a noun. And we can discuss that. There's a decent book, one word, two word. It's got errors in it, but it's not bad. Have you seen the errors, Marguerite? I have too. But there's some general rules. We can do that in a few minutes. I don't want to belabor the sample tracking card, but this, if you're going to do a good job, if you're going to deal with people that fuss at you and want stuff, you've really got to keep records of what you do. Before I mention this, and I'm saying it because it actually came up the other day, do not use the trunk of your car as a filing cabinet. Does anyone know what I mean by that? It gets real easy if you're busy to throw stuff in your trunk and leave it there 4 days. And this is not an urban legend, well, it would be a rural legend in Augusta, really. A court reporter, she's still reporting, wonderful lady, nice as she can be, good reporter, owns a firm. She did a rape murder case. Awful case. Glad I didn't report it. It was a 3-week case, and she just, and in Superior Court, which is not my court, the court reporter, at least until the trial is over, retains the exhibits, unless it's a gun or drugs. So she had exhibits, personal things that were related to the case that I wouldn't want to have. And she had everything she had done, her backup tapes, everything was in the trunk of her car. And after the 2nd week of testimony, guess what happened to her car when she stopped to get gas and ran in for 2 seconds to buy a soda or something? It was stolen. Everything was in the trunk. Mistrial, they had to start over. She had to do the case for free. That was really the only way to make up for the trouble she had cost the county. I know that it's junky, but every day I take everything out of my car. I mean, it may sound silly, but it's not a filing cabinet. And I know reporters that do it. Connie, my mentor that taught me so much, would do it. And I'd fuss at her. I'd mention the name of the court reporter it had happened to. And I'd say her name every time I'd look in her car. And she'd growl at me and take it out. Easy habit, don't do it. I beg of you. It's your career, but it doesn't help us as a profession for the headline to read, mistrial and serial murder case, court reporter's car stolen. You know, we don't need that as a headline in our lives as reporters. Don't do it. But you do need easy records to keep up with things. You don't have to do things this way. As long as all of you have been reporting, it's clear that you've got a system or to keep up with stuff, or you would not be reporters. I mean, you can't do this job without good record keeping. But this is just what we used in our firm. we use this on cardstock, about the size of the actual, where it says deposition tracking card, about that size. And I am able to keep in a filing box at my desk in my office about a year's worth of tracking cards. So if one of the judges calls, or an attorney in a case calls and says, we had thought we'd settled that case, or let's say, in fact, I got a call Thursday and I could not get it done because I was leaving at court all day Thursday, and got home about 6:30, and there was a message from an attorney. You did a family violence, domestic violence case back in 2004. That's been a couple of years ago. And I need a copy of the transcript, and I need it tomorrow if I can get it. Yeah, well, and of course he had already left for the day, so there was a nice message about, I'll be in New Jersey for the weekend, unfortunately, and I'll check my records and give you an estimate of the cost and when I can get it ready on Monday. Thank you very much. No more explanation than that, and let it go. But when I call and give him an estimate, I don't have to go through all of my records. All I have to do is to pull out, which is filed easily, all the records for that particular date. He needs it for something completely unrelated. He represents the wife in a divorce, and he wants the record from that earlier criminal case where the guy beat her up pretty bad. And she still stayed with him, which, don't get me off on that topic, but you know that with domestic violence. And usually it could be the man, but it's usually the woman that, you know, he apologizes and I've got a sister that happened to, and it's a sad situation, but she finally is going to get rid of him, and the man's loaded. And he just wants that transcript to probably wave at the attorney for the guy during the divorce and say, hey, give it up, let's, give her what she wants, or this will all come out again. So I know why he wants it. But you never know. And rather than dragging everything out, something like a tracking card is wonderful. I put the biggest deal, of course, other than being able to identify which case it is or who it is the length of times for the case. I don't know about your margins or the font you use in your state, but for me, for every hour of takedown, I figure 50 pages. And that seems to work nearly everywhere I've done workshops. I know what I charge per page. So anything that I've done, if I can find it and I've got the times, I can estimate the cost. That's all I need. And give someone a pretty fair and accurate cost. Always overestimate it, please. And this is just a little psychological trick, like thanking someone for calling with a complaint. If you underestimate it and you require payment in advance and they've given you $1,000 and it turns out to be $1,500, and when you get the transcript ready, you go, I've got it ready, but I'm going to need another $500. That sounds like some kind of Ponzi scheme or scam or something, doesn't it? That don't sound right. But if you've charged them $12 and it turns out to be $1,000, when you deliver the transcript, you've included a check for $200 for overpayment. That feels like they've gotten a present. You've charged them what you're supposed to charge them. There's no present, but that feels a little better than cough up some more money. It feels like you're holding the transcript for ransom or something. And that's just, please do that and you'll be much happier. You notice on the tracking card, exhibits and location. Oh, please, for the love of the good Lord and for the love of everything that you care for your puppy dogs, fill that out. Have somewhere that you know where exhibits are. When I was working with Connie, we had done a case. It was a domestic case No, it was a contract case, and there were hundreds of checks. Back in the olden days, they used to actually send you the check, the physical check back in front instead of these photocopies or computer-generated things. So you used to be able to have the actual check back. These were the actual canceled checks that we got back. And they were admitted as exhibits, each one a separate exhibit. Talk about needing exhibit stickers. But anyway, the taking attorney, I'd ordered the transcript. They called us. It was not ordered at the time. It was ordered sometime later, not years later, but several months later. And they thought they'd resolved the issue and hadn't, and they ordered the transcript. And we did not have the exhibit, so we just sent them the transcript. And the taking attorney called and went, "Where are all those checks?" We spent days, the scopist, the office manager, the court reporters, we tore that office apart. And we were not a large firm compared to big ones probably here, but a 15-person firm is pretty big in Augusta, and Connie had a pretty big staff. We couldn't find them anywhere. Well, at the time of the deposition, it was agreed that the attorney would retain them because they weren't copies, they were the original checks. And had we noted on the tracking card, and of course what happened was after the 3 days of stopping all of our work looking for them, the attorney's secretary called and said, "Never mind, we've got them, we found them in a box in storage." They probably knew they had them. No, I don't think. But in any event, a simple note. And because of that, if I do not have all the exhibits, I've begun to put on my exhibit pages, exhibits retained by Mr. Jones. Exhibits tendered and admitted but retained by. And that will happen in our court. We do preliminary hearings and other things where we do things that will go on to different courts in different ways. We do small claims, and in Georgia, if you have a small claim and you want to appeal it, you technically start over. It's called a court of inquiry rather than a court of record. There's a difference. But it's a court of inquiry, which means there's no appeal. You just start over. You go to state court or superior court, depending on the dollar volume, and do it again. And we almost never take exhibits in that case, in any of those cases. So the exhibits are almost always retained by the attorney who tenders and admits them. So I keep kind of a list of them after court. I make a list, but I always put on my index page exhibits, plaintiff's exhibits retained by Mr. Jones, defendant's exhibits retained by Ms. Smith. So if you ain't got the exhibits, it's good to note on the transcript that it saves that phone call. "Where are my exhibits?" I use the back of my tracking card for calls and notes. And people say this is Mickey Mouse, this is stupid, why do you do that? I will tell you why. Although you didn't ask, I will still tell you why. I do it because it cuts down confrontation when I have to deal with folks. If an attorney orders a transcript, I call the other side and go, "Would you like a copy?" And I bet you do the same thing, don't you? And if they say, "No, I don't think we're going to need it," there will be a note. 4/30/2011, spoke with Margie from John Smith's office. She says he does not need the transcript. So that 5 weeks later, when they go to trial, and his client is being impeached on the witness stand from the transcript, and they take a break, and he calls you and goes, "Where is that transcript? It's in court." You can flip over your tracking card, and that's kind of how they sound, and say, "Why, Mr. Smith, on 4/30/2011 at 10:30 in the morning," I also put the time, "I spoke with Margie from your office and said that the transcript had been ordered and offered a copy, and she said you didn't need it." and then I shut up. It may or may not resolve it. They can say, that never happened, you're lying. You never know what they'll say back. But what it says to the attorney is, Jack, I can play this game just as well as you can, and my records are accurate. It puts you in a position of strength. You may not need to be in that position. And 99% of the time, whenever anything like that has happened, the attorney goes, oh, wow. Oh, okay. Can you print a copy and bring it over to the courthouse? And I'll have Margie get you a check right now. You know, so they can read over it at lunch. But the notes are invaluable. I don't know, very few of you are in my age group, but something you young'uns will learn as you age is that although I can remember lots of things, the memory does kind of take a beating. And I have to use tricks sometimes to remember things. It is so funny. And I'm 63, Lee's 73, and we'll be talking about something and can't remember. We talk about songs from the 60s and who sang it. And we can't remember, and we go to bed, and about 4 in the morning I wake up and go, Sam Cooke! Nobody knows what I mean. Some of you do know what I mean. Where suddenly out of the blue, there it is. And sometimes it's from days before. So if that's beginning to happen to you, keeping notes are really, really important. If you are on your way out the door and the phone rings, let your machine get it. Unless you've got the time to pull out your tracking card or pull out something to write on, date, time, who you spoke with, and whatever the situation is. I am the queen of getting transcripts out. I'm so wonderful. Richard Allen, an attorney in Augusta, who's been written up nationally as one of the best attorneys in the world, great guy, pays great, called me as I was on my way out the door to court. I looked at my caller ID. Ooh, I need money. He needs a transcript. He pays good. I took the call. And it was his assistant, and yes, he did need a transcript and needed it by the following Friday. We had a date set, thanked him, went on out the door. The following Friday, I get a call from his assistant going, where's the transcript? Sam Cooke. There was no note because I was on my way out the door. And I know it may be the best deposition in the world, and there could be 50 attorneys and they want it expedited and you'll be set for life and you and your family can vacation in the Bahamas. But probably it isn't. Probably it's a telemarketer. Or a neighbor going, I see your car, can I come over for coffee? How many of you work out of your home? Anybody other than me? And people forget that when you're home, you're not really home. You have to manage that as part of your lives too. But make notes. If there's any of you that at night, if the Sam Cooke meant anything at all to you, and I noticed a lot of you nodding and smiling, please keep notes. But anyway, that's what I use. It's wonderful, just an idea.
Can I ask a question about that?
I wish you'd ask questions about anything. I'm tired of talking.
How do you file this?
I file it by date for court. When I did depositions, I filed it by last name of deponent. Because if it's court work, well, it depends. If it's a major case, I would file it by the name of the defendant. But for us, we do several cases in a day. We do maybe 20 preliminary hearings. I'm not going to do one for each case. A lot of them are never ordered. We do ordinance court on Thursday morning. This Thursday, past Thursday, we had 131 cases in the morning. Actually, what I have is a sheet listing all of the folks on it, and I attach that. And on that sheet, I put the times, and I attach that to the tracking card so I can keep up with it. But when I did depositions, always by the deponent. Court work, it really needs to be done a little bit differently, I think. But if it's a major case, 3-week serial murder case, that's going to probably be by the name of the person. If I'm doing that kind of work, but for mine, most of mine is date based. Any other questions? I'm sorry. Please feel free to raise your hand and interrupt me at any time. In the last workshop I did, it's really tacky to talk about participants in other workshops, but I had one lady, everything I said, she had a follow-up comment, like she had to put the period at the end of my sentence for me. And the rest of the room, finally, she sat right where you are, Darlene. No, but it isn't Darlene, in a group of over 100 people. And finally, by about the 50th, comment about everything I said, and I'd go, I used a bad email address. I have a comment about that. That side of the room was just falling over where she couldn't see that they were reacting. But anyway, she had to leave at lunch. She only needed a few hours, and there were almost applause when she left. But anyway, I don't get a sense of all that's in this group, so I would rather answer your questions and run my mouth. So y'all talk back to me. That didn't sound right. You know what I mean. If you go to page 5, I ain't gonna read this to you. Billing is not the easiest thing in the world to do, and collecting money, billing's easy to do, but collecting money isn't always easy. I'm right now owed nothing by any attorney. This is where officials may have it a little bit better than those of you that aren't officials. If I decided when I became an official, although I had been an office manager and knew good and bad payers pretty much, I decided that I'd give everybody one chance. Maybe this was a mistake. Like I said, Judge Jennings says I'm naive for my age, but I gave everybody one chance to play nice. And I billed everybody. Now, for those of you that don't do court work, when I did depositions, every now and then a deposition wouldn't be ordered. But most of the time, if attorneys call you in to do a deposition, it's because they want a transcript. But in court work, everything has to be, or most proceedings have to be taken down. There has to be a court reporter's record of the proceeding, but a lot of those are not ordered. So there are easily many times for an official when there isn't a transcript to hold over someone's head. But I decided I'd give everybody one chance to play nice. And the reality is, when it's just a takedown fee, it's real hard to collect your money up front. I don't know about your states, but in Georgia, for officials, it's based on an hourly takedown rate for court, not here. It's just a per diem amount. No, let's say the transcript's not ordered, and you just are there to report it.
In court in New York, it's all salary.
All salary and, okay.
And then page rate.
And then a page rate. Well, that's easy. In Georgia, it is, if it's criminal, it's salaried. It's part of my salary. But if it's civil, attorneys pay for that. And if they don't order the transcript right, then it's hard to say, and it's based on an hourly rate that's set by state statute. It's very hard to say after the first hour, I need another $50, please, before I can continue. That gets real tacky. But so I'm in a situation where I oftentimes don't have a transcript to say, give me my money or ain't getting your transcript. And after the third bill I send out, there is a note, and handwritten notes I found to be very effective on invoices. The note says, it is clear that you have a problem paying me. Is that wrong to say? They ain't paid me. They got a problem. I ain't got a problem. I did the work. I billed them. They got the problem. It is clear that you're having trouble paying me. The next time you need a reporter for Judge Jennings, Perhaps we should sit down with him and discuss you getting another reporter to cover the case. Thank you, Sue McDuffie. I am owed nothing by anyone. That note works every time. I don't involve my judges because I just mentioned they handle small claims. Sadly, all my money fits into the dollar amount for, it's under $15,000. It's all small claims. It's small to me. It pays my bills, but it still is small claims. But I've gotten a couple of nasty calls as a result of that. But by and large, it's been, my secretary forgot to send you the check. Yeah, right. But we're putting it in the mail tomorrow. Right now, I have nothing outstanding from anyone. And that note works wonderfully. When I did depositions, especially with attorneys with large firms, I learned to call the attorney. If you're not good at collecting or don't like it, that's kind of an awful phone call to make. In fact, I know a court reporter, she might be in this area, might be one of you, but I don't remember the name, so I'm not talking about you because I don't remember, but who uses a different name for collections. She's a one-person operation.
I love that.
You like that, don't you?
I'm gonna steal it.
Steal it. I think somebody in New York or New Jersey gave it to me. But what she does is she calls, and instead of being Sue McDuffie, I'm Laura Gibson. I handle collections for Sue McDuffie Reporting. Oh, you love that? Good. I'm glad. I don't often mention that. I'm glad I did. But let me make a note because I start needing to mention that all the time. All right, I'm going to write down false name. What are the chances of me remembering what that means between now and my next workshop in Illinois? Missouri. But, and again, it keeps her relationship good with the attorney, but yet it allows her to collect money. Of course, if someone you really know well, you go to the same church, they're going to recognize your voice. Sue, is that you? And then you're in a world of trouble. But oftentimes you're not calling the attorney, you're calling accounts payable or something like that. But that's what she does, and she's found it to be very successful. Maintains the positive court reporter-attorney relationship, but lets her be in a different position to try to collect money. And people don't like collection agencies calling them. In Georgia, new court reporters with their great big wide eyes, they've been to school where they've been promised millions of dollars. Have you seen some of these ads for these schools, folks? There's one in Georgia. There's a new school, and it shows a court reporter skiing down a mountain, probably in Vail. And then the next is her sunning herself with a nice cocktail brought to her by some handsome cabana boy, in the Bahamas. You too, it promises, which says to me, lots of leisure time and lots of money. And I don't think we need people that are getting into the profession for that reason. But these ads make me, they're hilarious. The first one I saw, I thought it was an ad for for chapstick. They used to have a gal on skiing. And I thought, well, this is Susie Chapstick. And no, it was Susie Court Reporter. I went to name of school redacted. Well, I shouldn't redact it because they've done the ad. I think it might just be regional. But thanks to such and such school of reporting, I make money. I'm able to have time with my family and take these wonderful vacations. You need to call them today. It's a great field. And I'm thinking, yeah, that look on your face is what I'm thinking. Oh, man. But the reality is, you've worked, you need your money. And when I've worked hard, I want my money. Every now and then, I have found with a large firm, sometimes the attorney does not know a bill has not been paid. There is a firm in Augusta that with the lead attorney, and you try not to have favorites, and you certainly don't show favoritism, but I love Jack. I'll tell you his name. His name's Jack Long. You ever hear of him? He pays good, and he's a great guy. And but he has a terrible lisp. And he knows it. He talks 8 million miles an hour. The takedown takes every ounce of skill I've got. I got to be on when I do Jack. And he's always got an objection. I mean, he's good. He knows what he's doing. He will represent court reporters for free. He loves us. He thinks we're necessary. He would lead the fight to keep audio and video out of the courtroom. And you don't see, and he just tells anybody, got to have a good court reporter, name of the game. I love him. Y'all love him too already. And he always says, if any of my boys, the other attorneys in his firm, don't pay you, you let me know. And unusually long case for us, it was over $500, and that's getting into paying electricity and buying something good for dinner money for me. And I wanted my money. And I decided I'm not going to call Jack because it sounds like I'm trying to get the senior partner. I want a good relationship with everyone in the firm. Although I'm an official still, you don't want people going into the courtroom hating you. And I called a fairly young attorney, and he said, "Oh, the bill. Was that cover sheet with the transcript?" He still had it. The minute he opened it up, he just filed it because he didn't need it right away, and I had my check within 2 or 3 days. He immediately turned it in. So don't assume they're not paying you. A call doesn't hurt, and it's a friendly call. I sent a second notice to the district attorney, and Ashley called me back and said, "Sue, I'm about to take your name in vain. You never sent me the transcript." And after 9/11, security got much tighter in our courtrooms, and of course, there was a court reporter that was killed in Georgia a few years back. A guy was changing clothes into street clothes. This attorney asked that in front of the jury he not look like an inmate, and I can understand as a defense attorney I would request the same thing. Because there's always an assumption, there's kind of an assumption of guilt if they're in prison garb. And they had one gal with him or outside the room where he was changing, and he just overpowered her and took her gun, went in the courtroom where they were doing calendar call for upcoming civil cases, and shot the judge. And Julie, who I knew very well, the court reporter, stood up. And had she just stayed seated or gone behind her desk, but her first reaction was to stand up, and he just, went right to her. But after all of that, there's been a lot of more security in Georgia especially. And the DA, which could also be a target for someone very easily, you have to go through 2 levels of security aside from the outside that everyone goes through to get to their offices. You have to do that with judges now too, not court reporters. But and what I had done when I took Ashley's transcript to her, I had left it at the front desk. I was never going to be able to go through that other level and get back to her office, so I left it at the front desk. And the gal was new. I didn't know that, and she just kind of stuck it in her drawer. So I said, "Ashley, I promise you I wouldn't have sent you a second bill if I hadn't done the transcript. I file the originals for court cases. That may not be what any of you do, but I do." I said, "I filed the original with the clerk, and you can double check the date." "Oh no, so I believe you did it." And she said, "Let me look around here." And there was a whole stack of stuff the new receptionist didn't know what to do with, drawer full at that point. So don't assume evil non-payer could be something simple. And every now and you'll get the attorney who says, "I'm an attorney, you're not. I can outlast you in court. I'm not going to pay you." Slam. Like Connie got. And what Connie did was to march upstairs and get the forms for small claims court, filled them out, Took the time to do that. Actually, I think I filled them out. Made a copy and sent it to the attorney going, you may be able to outlast me in court, but let's go to court. Shattered check within a week. That threat, attorneys do not want to have to take the time to do that. Now I know court reporters don't like to sue attorneys. Because that's kind of a bad reputation to get. But hey, I want my money. And the threat of the suit will work wonders. And I've had reporters say, but if you do that, or if you write that little letter like I do or that little note on my invoices about getting with the judge, if you do that, you'll lose them as a client. And I'm thinking, well, of course, if you're an official, not really. But if you're freelance and doing deposition, why in the world do you want a terrible payer as a client? I mean, I don't know, maybe you do. Maybe you enjoy trying to collect money from deadbeats. I don't. Life's too short. I got a husband to cook with, and I got doggies to play with, and sisters in North Carolina to wear blue hair with. So there. And I bet y'all have other things to do too, don't you? And Connie had a partner for a while, Linda. Nice lady, my age exactly. Slim, tall, but she wore the clothes of a teenager. I don't know why. That sound like an old fuddy-duddy, don't I? But I mean, her skirts were really short, and she just thought she would ooey-gooey with attorneys. And she and her husband were not barflies, but they enjoyed going out for a cocktail every now and then. And she would say to, please start using us. We're wonderful. She talked like that. Please start using us. There she is in a skirt. I thought it was way too short for her age. But, let me buy you a drink. And I mean, I don't know. She gave up reporting, is now a grandma and taking her Prozac regularly and doing fine. Lord, some of you know people in Augusta are going to go, Sue said you take Prozac, and suddenly I'm going to be in a slander lawsuit. Thank you very much. And every now and then, one of her little activities would work. And an attorney would call us and go, we've been using them, but we're going to switch to you. And she would do a happy dance around the office, a sight to behold, let me tell you that. Wait a minute, I just said me and my 3 overweight sisters dance in front of the... So maybe I should shut up about talking about other people's dancing. But anyway, and Connie her partner my mentor would come out and go, Linda, they don't pay worth a hoot. We don't need them as clients. Sue's got enough to do without having to collect from them. And Linda would quit dancing in midair, and their partnership didn't last a long time. But beware of the attorney that calls and says, I'm going to start using you. You know they use firm XYZ, and firm XYZ's a pretty good court reporting firm. Some attorneys are going through all the court reporting firms in that city and not paying them and going on to the next. It's like people that rent an apartment and stay there and get a couple of months free and then go somewhere else. And they make their rounds. So I'm not asking you to be paranoid, but just keep that in mind. And if another court reporter calls you, only bad thing, not bad thing, but the only thing I'll say about fellow reporters, no it isn't. Somebody calls you and says, maybe somebody you're not real close with, and says, I am just swamped. I've got too much work to do, and I've got tomorrow all-day depositions in, city is named, or county is named. There are 5 attorneys. I think it might be an expedite. Thought of you right away. Can you handle it? Beware of that. Something's that good, they're going to find a way to do it themselves. So keep that in mind. Just wonder why they aren't taking it themselves. I had that happen to me. It was from somebody out of town. A court reporter who had done my home study course, runs a big firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. My home state, of course, already thinking positive. And he called and said, I've been meaning to call you to tell you how much I enjoyed your home study. I learned so much, it was wonderful. Okay, I like to be liked, I like to be thought well of. He complimented me, he got me, he had me from You're Wonderful. What's that line? You had me from Hello, from Jerry Maguire. And I couldn't do it, but my best friend, who's also a reporter, Mia, was free, and it was medical, and Mia used to be a medical transcriptionist, so she'd do a better job than I would. So we agreed I'd do the proofing, she'd do it, we'd split the money, and we figured something out. And she went and did the deposition, and it was a deposition in a workers' comp case, and it was an expert witness who worked at the Medical College of Georgia, which is in Augusta. And lasted all day. And we billed the taking attorney. That was the client of the court reporter that had called. And he said, oh no, you bill everything to the employer. In North Carolina, the employer pays for all workers' comp transcripts. That doesn't sound right, does it? Well, we did it, and the employer's attorney had a good old fit on the phone with us going, why in the world have you billed us for everything? This isn't right. And we checked and found out it wasn't right. And this attorney is a deadbeat. We never got the money. And the attorney and the court reporter in North Carolina knew he was a deadbeat. But I was the only name he knew. And what did he do? You're wonderful, Sue. I'll do anything. Thank you so much. Watch that. Watch that. Think of the Trojan horse. You never know. Let me ask if y'all need another 10-minute break, or you want to go ahead through to lunch. You need a break? Okay, let's take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to do research. Please come back. Research is fun.
Okay, hey, you're done. It's over with. You can go home now. Oh, wait, you already are home because you took a Jeff Justice seminar program online. Good thinking, smart for you. So just go ahead and either email us the PDF or send it in snail mail, whichever way you were doing this. We'll grade it, get it back to you along with your letter of completion. And remember, we have plenty more programs like this, so hopefully you will come to us time and time again when you need your CEUs, okay? Take care. Remember to always laugh more, stress less, and avoid getting burned out. Take care from Jeff Justice Seminars.